Today, we explore a business on paper had outgrown Scrappy. 8 people, $75,000 a month in revenue, 18 active clients, and a wait list of brands coming in. Inside the company though, everyone said the same thing. We add capacity. We literally can't take one more client until we hire 2 more implementers and a PM. The founder believed it. The team believed it. Headcount had doubled in under a year. Slack was chaos, projects were late, and the founder was working 70 to 80 hours a week and still getting pulled into every fire. And yet, when you actually look at how much real build each person was doing, one number didn't match the story at all. From the outside, it looked like a classic, we have a people's problem. But underneath, something else was creating the feeling of being full long before they hit true capacity. On a Thursday night in July, at 1:37 a.m., the founder, we'll call him Eric, was in the living room in his sweatpants. Laptop open, Slack buzzing, and his youngest daughter had awoken twice already. His partner had gone to bed hours ago. On screen, 3 different client channels were on fire. 1 launch day bug, 1 quick emergency change for a big SaaS client, 1 support escalation for a smaller off-niche account. And each message had the same thing in common. Eric, can you please jump in? He told himself there was only one answer. We'd outgrown ourselves. We just need more people. And once we hire properly, this will calm down. Except that wasn't the problem. The thing that's actually choking the business was the way every single road, decision, and escalation still ran through him. And by the end of this story, that's the part you might not be able to unsee on your own calendar. So, if you run a B2B AI automation or agentic agency stuck between 40 to 80,000 a month, and you want to grow without the permanent bottleneck for every build, this is for you. All I do here is break down real agencies in that band, find the real constraint, and fix it in a 12-week sprint. I post one of these every week, so if you don't want to be busy and blocked a year from now on, subscribe and stick around. So back to our story. In early 2025, Eric and his co-founder ran a 6-person AI automation shop in Toronto. 2 founders, 3 implementers, and 1 client ops generalist who did every bit of everything. They were doing just over $50,000 a month, and they had 10 returning clients, solid case studies, and a reputation for getting gnarly stuff done when other agencies bailed. So their identity was clear. We're the team that does the real technical AI work, no fluff, no templates. We'll make everything talk to everything. And the clients loved that. But it came with a cost. Almost every build was bespoke. Every integration pattern was a snowflake, and every hard decision went to one place: Eric. And he was good at it. He knew every stack, every weird Zapier, make LLM edge cases. He could debug anything. And at that stage, it looked like an advantage. When a real deal wants to push over the limits, says the sales, Eric will figure it out. And by the time we got back to the 1:37 a.m., that Slack night, the agency looked very different on paper. Headcount was up from 6 to 9. Revenue from 50K to 80K a month, which was good. Client count from 10 to 20 plus. The ops dashboard was a mess of cards in progress. Slack never stopped. And the internal story was simple and it felt true. We've hit capacity. Our only way out is hiring. And once we have a bigger team, this will feel sane. And to understand why this was wrong, we need to rewind back about a year ago to when that we're full story really started. So about 12 months earlier, the agency was sitting around 45 to 50K a month. And at that time, projects shipped. They were tense, but still landed. And 2 things happened back to back. First, they closed a big off-stack enterprise client, different CRM, different data warehouse, and different rules. And Eric told himself, it's a stretch, But we'll figure it out. Great logo, and just for this time. Second, the team started hearing a new refrain from almost every call. We want everything really custom and none of the cookie cutter template stuff. And Eric was proud of that. It meant their reputation was working. So he made what felt like the right decision at the time. We are not a template shop. Every build is crafted to guarantee quality. And I will review every architecture and own all the QAs. But from that moment, two invisible rules were in place. Nothing significant shipped without Eric, and any client slightly off stack or special was still a yes. And at that time, it looked like craft and standards. But in reality though, it was slowly turning him into the only valve inside the business. The first time it showed up was a problem. It was easy to dismiss. A launch for a mid-market client slipped by a week. The team hit some unexpected edge cases, and Eric dove in. Pulled a couple of late nights, rewrote part of the agent logic by himself, and got it over the line. They agreed on the explanation. Growing pain. We're doing more complex work now, and this is what it's gonna take. But 2 months later, the same thing happened again. A little worse. But this time though, 2 projects were late. Slack screenshots showed Eric pinballing between 3 different client channels, fielding questions for his teams, reviewing PRs, and jumping into calls to calm the client. And the conclusion? Well, we need more hands. Our builders are at capacity, and let's hire another implementer. So they did. Now fast forward another quarter, headcounts were 8. Calendar full of builds, scopes, quick check-ins. The ops board had twice as many cards. But the number of projects finished each month hadn't meaningfully increased. Average delivery time was sliding from 6 to 8 weeks to 12 weeks plus. The story shifted slightly though. We need a project manager, someone to keep all this straight. So they hired a PM. A few weeks later, it felt better. The PM built more boards, started more projects, and gave more updates. But one late night on Friday, when 3 different clients escalated at once, the pattern looked eerily familiar. Slack still pinged the same person. Eric, can you please jump in, as they said. And every time something got messy, a spec was unclear, a client changed their mind, and integration behaved weirdly, the default move was the same. Eric parachuted in, reorganizes the chaos, and leaves. And it looked like he was saving the team. He thought he was plugging the gaps until they could hire someone properly. And what he did made this crisis believable. And after the crunch week, things would stabilize. And Eric took a Saturday off and thought, see, we're not that slammed. This can work. We just need more consistent capacity. Then the next week spike hit, more clients, more builds, and the cycle restarts. And nobody questioned the core belief though. We genuinely at capacity until one number forced the issue. On the one quarterly review, we put out a very boring report. How many build projects per FTE and how many did we actually finish per month? 2 things jumped out. 12 months earlier, with 3 implementers, they were finishing 5 to 6 builds a month. Now, with 5 implementers and a PM, they were finishing 6 to 7. Or in other words, headcount has almost doubled. Finished work had barely moved. And when we look at where everyone's time was going, a pattern emerged. Half-built projects across 4 to 5 different tech stacks. Multiple off-avatars, off-stack clients were chewing the hours. Dozens of cards waiting for Eric to have some step, and it still looked, on the surface, like a capacity story. Busy calendar, full board, late projects. But if people hadn't materially increased finished work, the question became, are we actually out of capacity? Or are we burning capacity at chaos and founder dependency? That's when we turned our attention away from how many hours people worked to actually how the work actually flows. So upon one point, the heroes of this story were actually Eric's technical depth. He could fix anything. And the agencies we can handle any stack ethos, their reputation for doing their real bespoke work, and those of the same thing were creating bottleneck. When we mapped out a few recent projects from end to end, the anatomy was clear, and it was the same. Sales will promise heavy customization on whatever stack the client used. Projects were started quickly to get the ball rolling, often before requirements were even stable, and each implementer worked across 4 to 6 different projects at once. Any non-standard decision bounced back to Eric, and Eric's attention was split between 10 to 20 in progress cards at any time. Now, median time awaiting Eric were days. He was the capacity expansion plan and the safety net and the final QA, all in one. And they hired. The more people they hired, the more projects queued outside. They didn't have a headcount problem. They had a fake capacity problem built on ops disorganization and founder centralization. So we went back and we reconstructed what really happened. The chain looks like this. First, it started when they decided we're not a template shop, we are fully customized. The belief that they say yes to any off-stack, off-avatar work because we can figure it out. And to protect quality, Eric himself quietly committed to reviewing every piece of architecture and doing the final QA, personally. And as they've grown bigger, and they won bigger, weirder projects, the variety of stacks and patterns actually exploded. They never standardized on one primary stack or core delivery template, and every job felt new. And the PM's job will layer on top of that, but without work in progress limits. So more projects got started, none got simpler. And the gaps between the teams start appearing on boards, inside the cards, we're waiting for Eric, client clarification, tech review are all piling up. And instead of questioning the structure though, they interpreted the late projects, the high stress, as we need new hands. So they hired more implementers. Those implementers added more partially finished work into an already crowded pipe, and all of which needed Eric at some point. The more they hired, the fuller Eric's calendar got, with reviews, emergencies, and architecture decisions. And by the time he was answering Slack at 1:37 a.m., they were full because one human was full. Not because the company is at true capacity. And if they simply added more people again, they'll have created more half-finished projects, more tickets awaiting at the same bottleneck. So we fixed it by attacking 4 things, in order, over a 12-week period. First, we imposed work in progress limits and a single board. No more 10 projects in progress per implementer. We agreed on a maximum number of active builds per person, and nothing else could start until something is finished. That one change alone reduced the context switching and made waiting for Eric card very obvious. Second, we standardized a core delivery template. They picked one primary stack and one preferred architecture pattern. From then, around 80 to 90% of the new builds had to fit in that template. Off-stack works required explicit approval and headcount as 2 to 3 lots, not just one. And number 3, we put Eric out of the routine build and debugs. He moved into true architect and QA role. His calendar got 2 to 3 protected blocks per week for deep architecture work. And all Slack escalations went through a CSM or an ops person first. Implementers were required to propose a solution before involving him. And fourthly, we said no to off-stack, off-niche, heavy custom work for 90 days. No new clients outside the defined ICP, and no, we just learned the entire homegrown system deals, as well as taking on no projects that required them to invent the entire delivery system pattern. So the KPI we watched wasn't hours worked or team size. It was actually gross profit per active build per month. And at the beginning of the sprint, the number was embarrassingly low. They were acting like they had 20 slots. But in reality, maybe 8 to 10 were doing meaningful work, and the rest were trash. And as the spring went on, the number of active cards dropped. The number of finished builds per month climbed. And waiting for Eric column started to shrink. And surprisingly, or you say unsurprisingly, the sense of we are always full began to fade. And 6 months later, the agency's revenue sat in the mid-70s to the low 80s most months, but they were shipping more builds per quarter than they had at 90K plus. And Eric was no longer in every Slack channel. An average build time had fallen back to 6 to 8 weeks. And they knew, with math, how many build slots they actually had. Now, the image that stuck out with me was simple. On a Wednesday afternoon, instead of triaging 3 emergencies at once, Eric sat in a quiet office block, whiteboard in front of him, working on a single architecture for a high-value client, uninterrupted. And the messages used to fire Eric Kane jumping now said things like this: here's what we tried. We think this is right approach. Can you please check for us? And that wasn't a fire department anymore. He was actually the architecture of the business. So if you're running B2B AI agency with teams slammed, boards full, and your gut says, we are capacity, we just need more people, it might not be a random headcount problem. It might be that you've built a system where every road leads back to you. If any part of this felt a little bit too familiar, your Slack, your board, your midnight sessions, don't just nod and move on. Take the 5-minute constraint finder and find out whether it tags you as a B3 constraint. Then book a free 45-minute deep dive and we'll pull out your last quarter of delivery data and see whether it's actually out of capacity or just buried in fake capacity that created by operating habits. And I break down one of these every week from stuck to scaled. And as they say, do not hire more people into a pipeline where everything still flows through you, because most founders will. Don't be most founders.